What's up? What's up? What's up? How you doing? This is Rob from Rob's Ranch. I want to talk a little bit about the situation with Public Enemy. I spoke a little bit about it before in regards to how they have been compromised. Chuck D, Flav, Griff, and others, and they were compromised a long time ago. But it seems like lately, Flavor Flav has actually got himself on code. I think maybe he's been listening to the new black media and he's seeing that the times have changed with black people, that we are not trying to accept these sellouts and these coons and individuals who consider themselves to be members of black society selling us out, following someone like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, like I said in my last video, has made it very clear that he has no intentions of supporting reparations for black folks. He's been very disrespectful towards the idea. He's been very dismissive towards the idea. And when we talk about reparations, he sits up and says things like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And he raises his voice. He gets real belligerent and hostile about it. He starts talking like the Republicans and starts talking like white supremacists whenever the idea of reparations comes to the surface. This is how a lot of these white liberals get down, Bernie Sanders specifically. And we've talked about time and time again that without tangibles, there will be no vote. That's the bottom line. If these individuals are not talking about reparations and specifically things that are going to benefit African Americans, foundational black Americans only, things set aside for us, like they do with the LGBT community, like they do with the illegal immigrant community, like they do with other people in this country, then you won't get our vote, you won't get our support. This whole idea that all tides lift all boats is a bullshit idea. It doesn't work. It's never worked. And we're not going for the okie doke any longer. And this is the climate that we're seeing today. And I respect the fact that Flav understands that. Chuck D, like I said before, Chuck D, I think, has been compromised. He was compromised a long time ago. And it shows, like Jason Black said on his channel, you got to watch out for these old ass niggas. And that includes Chuck D. And that was somebody that I one time respected, I admired, I looked at him with reverence. But we have to be honest about something. He sold out Griff a long time ago when he was up there talking about black empowerment. And if Chuck D was such a threat to white society and to the establishment and status quo, like many of us have suspected that he was, he wouldn't have been able years ago to sit up and have the logo of Public Enemy be on the Terminator 2 movie. James Cameron had I'm trying to remember the kid's name. Edward Furlong. Edward Furlong. He had Edward Furlong wear a Public Enemy t-shirt that was put on the John Connor character, right, during Terminator 2. If he was such a threat to white society, they wouldn't have allowed that character to wear that shirt. If he was such a threat to white society, Anthrax wouldn't have done a song with him for the remix of Bring the Noise. If he was such a threat to white society, Bernie Sanders wouldn't be asking him to perform, or his people would be asking him to perform over at his rally here in Los Angeles. And I know Chuck is getting paid for that, but we have to be real about something. That dude's been compromised a long time. Maybe he always was compromised, because he had no problem throwing his buddy under the bus, his boy under the bus, in order for him to push his career, which is what he did when he spoke up against some of the Jews that have exploited black people within America through entertainment, and how they've exploited and trafficked negative images towards us at our expense so they can get rich. He had no problem talking about that. But we have to understand something. A lot of these individuals we see in entertainment, they have been put into the positions that they're in because of the fact that white society knows they can be controlled, they can be tempered, they can be bought, they can be tamed, And for the most part, these people, even the ones that sit up and talk black to us every now and then, are not going to really do anything to undermine white supremacy. They're not going to do anything to sit up and try to go against the status quo. They're not going to do anything to really empower black people. Because when Public Enemy came out with their first two albums, Bum Rush the Show, and then It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, and their fan base was primarily black people who were the individuals listening to what they had to say, there was no consequence for them talking black shit. There was no consequence for them talking pro-black shit. But then when they made the movie, when Spike Lee made the movie Do the Right Thing, and they were the theme song for that Oscar-nominated film, and they were brought on, now all of a sudden they were a threat. Now all of a sudden these people were someone that folks had to look at. And when they pulled on the collar of Griff, they failed the test. They were put up in a game of chicken, and just like I said before, like Snoop Dogg, they blinked. They didn't sit up and say, bring that shit on. They blinked. And this is exactly what we see. This is exactly what goes on within society every single day when it comes to a lot of these entertainers, and why we shouldn't have faith in any of them, even Public Enemy at this point, because that's what they are. And Chuck D's been compromised for a while now. He's been compromised a long time ago because his interest is not specifically in lifting up his base, which is the black community, the African American community that made him who he is. But he wants to talk this intersectional nonsense now. He wants to sit up and he wants to advocate and be down with Bernie Sanders. So I look at him no different than I look at people like Killer Mike or Sean King or any of these other black folks who supposedly talk black. One minute, they have this political schizophrenia, but then the next minute they want to sit up and start talking about transgenderism. They want to start talking about LGBTQ issues, illegal immigration, things that have nothing to do with foundational black Americans. And you know what? I sit up and I say, this is good. I said a long time ago that this era of Trump, we're going to see how many black folks actually believe in white supremacy. We're going to see how many of these entertainers, when they get pushed, when they get nudged, when all eyes are watching them, how many of them are going to run for the hills? Are they going to stay, or are they going to put their feet deep into the sand, look forward, and sit up and tell everybody, God damn it, this is what I believe. I believe in black empowerment. I stand with my people, and I dare you to sit up and try to mess with me. I'm not going to back down. Because when some people get into a game of chicken, they run for cover, and others, they sit up and they wait for the car to hit them. They're willing to put it all on the line. I'm not saying that's what Chuck should do. If Chuck wants to be an entertainer, he should stick to being an entertainer. Just like Snoop Dogg. But leave the activism and leave those of us who are out there putting in work for those who really are about putting everything on the line and being about that life, because Chuck has proven that he's been compromised and he really isn't about that life. So he said some good things in the past, which I appreciate. But at this point, Chuck, if you ever hear this video, I think that you need to leave the activism in your music, and I say in real life, to people who really have the aptitude to make some stuff happen. Because you're about 60 years old, which means you're a baby boomer. You crave that acceptance from white society. And you're not trying to sit up and stand up to white supremacy. Even when it comes to Bernie Sanders, there's no way that you should be in cahoots with somebody that has publicly come out and basically disrespected all of us as a group and say and tell us that what we want, reparations, the biggest sin in the history of the world. I'm sorry, slavery, the biggest sin in the history of the world, not reparations. And the remedy to rectify what was wrong in what happened to us in our actual enslavement. For us to stand up and to say something and try to make that happen, and you have someone whose people actually got reparations, who should be sympathetic, who should understand exactly where we're coming from and stand with us. But yet understand something is that although Bernie Sanders is a Jew, he's still white. And you do have some Jewish white supremacists out there. Because for him to get up and to say that he won't support reparations is too divisive, what does that mean? His people would never tolerate us talking that way about them. But he gets up and arrogantly and disrespectfully sits up and belligerently says these things time and time and time again, and we should not give him a pass, and we should not support him. So I look at you, Chuck, and the fact that you're out here supporting someone like that, and you threw your boy Flav out the group because he is pretty much speaking and saying what the rest of young black people are finally saying. If you're not providing us any tangibles, we're not voting for you. It's as simple as that. You won't get our vote. But as I said before, a lot of these cats have been compromised, or maybe they never were who we thought that they were. So anyway, this is Rob from Rob's Ranch. You can go ahead and like, subscribe to the channel, share it, post it, and I will talk to you soon. Later.